And hello and welcome to Arts and Entertainment. I'm Deborah Gilbert, your host, and as always, it's so great to have you. Thank you so much for being here, and I hope you enjoy the show. Well, we have a little bit of something different besides theater, which is always great. We're going to highlight the Florence Griswold Museum, which is based in Old Lyme, Connecticut, and I have the pleasure of having Joshua Campbell Torrance, the executive director, here with me today, and I'm thrilled that he's made the trip to be with us. I hope you enjoy it. And Joshua, thanks so much for being here. Pleasure to have you.
Well, thank you so much for having me. It's delightful to be here on this beautiful day.
We've spent a lot of nice time talking before we started taping, but if you don't mind repeating your story, I would appreciate it. Why don't you, I like to introduce the viewer to the guest before we get started into the subject matter. So why don't you tell us about yourself? Take us into your background.
I'll start way at the beginning. So I was born in Warren, Ohio.
Okay.
So I am a Cleveland Browns fan, which is kind of sad and happy all at the same time. And when I was 10, my family moved to New Jersey, but out in the country. And so I had this wonderful little upbringing of living on a small farm, but being an hour to New York City, and having wonderful parents who took myself and my three siblings to museums all the time. And then, of course, in New Jersey, there's great Revolutionary War sites and histories. And so I kind of grew up going to museums, and it was really quite wonderful. I went to Elmira College, thinking I would be a theater major. After my first year, I became a history major, which my parents were only slightly more optimistic about, but still wondering what I was going to do. And as I was approaching graduation, I really got intrigued by two things happened. I had a professor who taught a course on the Smithsonian Institution, and it was really lovely, and I had, of course, gone to the Smithsonian with my parents, but loved the history and obviously the awesome museums of the Smithsonian. And that kind of got me thinking about museums, but I also was intrigued by the notion of doing what's called public history. So, not doing the academic route, but history for the public. Could be archivist, could be museum work, could be working for a city, doing planning. I went and got a master's degree from Indiana University of Pennsylvania, home of Jimmy Stewart, so theater and museums intertwining. Got that degree, and then decided to do an internship at the Smithsonian, which was a dream come true.
Wow.
Really fun. My internship would end about 1 o'clock, and I could step onto the National Mall, and I could literally go to any museum I wanted as a very poor intern for free, but also in those museums step anywhere in the world, it felt like. While there, I decided museums, this was my passion. This is what I wanted to do. And I was fortunate enough to be able to apply and get into the Cooperstown graduate program in Cooperstown, New York, which is still the leading museum studies program and one of the first museum studies programs in the country. And that was a wonderful, wonderful experience. Cooperstown is a great, great, great place to be. The village of museums. Again, I could step out and I could go to the Farmers Museum, the Baseball Hall of Fame, or my favorite, the Fenimore Art Museum, all within 3 or 4 minutes. Really just delightful. There, I really quickly honed in on that I wanted to be a museum director. And I was fortunate to have broad training in American decorative arts, American history, American fine art, and particularly American folk art. But I knew my path was going to be administration and not curatorial. And I was fortunate from there to have the opportunity to go to Down East Maine, Ellsworth, Maine, and work for a museum called Woodlawn Museum Gardens and Park, a museum that is a 180-acre estate owned by the group that started Acadia National Park. And I was there for 19 years when my family met my wife there, also a theater person, and we have 2 wonderful children, both in college now. And Ellsworth I consider to be home, and down East Maine I consider to be home. And it's funny because people would say, well, Connecticut's got a lot of museums. And I thought, well, yes, they do, but I don't know if I wanted to move to Connecticut. Now that we have moved to Connecticut, we absolutely are in love with it. There's so much diversity of people, of cultures. There's diversity of museums and experiences, and it's also accessible. It's so wonderful. I was initially in Connecticut to work for the Webb Dean Stevens Museum in Old Wethersfield, a property owned by the Colonial Dames. And in 2022, towards the end of 2022, saw that the Florence Griswold Museum post had opened. Now, the Florence Griswold Museum has always loomed large in my life, partially because of the story of its founding, also because its longtime director, Jeffrey Anderson, was a graduate of the Cooperstown graduate program. And so as a student, we studied the Florence Griswold Museum and his career and what he was able to do. And I thought, wow. I mean, I was just in awe of Jeffrey, of course, but also just so impressed with that institution. And I thought, if I ever had an opportunity, I'd throw my hat in the ring and see what happened. Lo and behold, an opportunity arose and I applied, and here I am.
Well, you know what? The audience is saying, oh my goodness, I heard theater.
Yes.
You've made that transition. Tell us your start in theater and why you moved over into then history and then into museums. What happened?
All right, so I believe it or not, I was a shy kid with a speech impediment. And I'm the youngest of four: John, Jessica, Jason, Joshua. And I was very shy. I didn't like to talk because of my impediment. And I had a really wonderful theater professor in high school who had worked with my older siblings and said to me once, I'm gonna get you. I'm gonna get you on the stage. I played football and I blew out my knee at my freshman year, at which point my parents said, no more football. And then my professor kind of grabbed me, and as a sophomore, we did You Can't Take It With You. And I was one of the leads, and that was super fun. I just got immediately hooked. Actually, my first show was Bye Bye Birdie. I was in the chorus, and my brother was Conrad Birdie. There was something so magical about being on the theater and being on stage. And then I had a very successful high school career, and it was great. And I thought, hey, maybe I would do this in college. And I got to college, and you discover that, while you were a big fish in a small pond, I was then a small fish in a very big lake when I got to college. And then, as wonderful as the theater was at my school, it was all-encompassing, and that's you live, breathe, eat theater that entire first year, and it kind of burned me out a little bit. I had a wonderful professor at college, first class, first day, described to us how hard it was to kind of get a job, and I just remember having this moment, thinking to myself, I could have that wonderful feeling of being on stage. I didn't have to be on Broadway if I didn't have the talent to get to Broadway, but that feeling of performing and being on stage and peeking through the curtains and seeing, your audience, I could have that anywhere. And so it gave me some comfort to think, I don't have to say goodbye to the theater. I can still do theater. It just may not be my work. And so I became a history major. My parents were definitely happier about that, and just really, excelled from there. And history and museums have just always been part of my life. Very funny story, not off color, but silly. When I was very young, my parents took us to Newport. And we were maybe at the Marble House. I can't remember. I don't think it was the Breakers. And it was right around the time I was being potty trained. And we went to the bathroom with the fancy gold fixtures and the pull down flushers and all that. And I just was in awe. Unfortunately, and very embarrassingly for my parents, I decided that it was a bathroom and I was being potty trained and I needed to go to the bathroom. So as the tour moved along, I stayed behind, only to have the entire tour turn around when they heard the twinkle twinkle, and I was very proud of myself that I, figured out how to do this all by myself. And the tour guide was great, and it always kind of stuck with me. And she said, well, that's what it's there for. And she just kind of moved along. But, I reflect on that and think, maybe that's why I'm supposed to be in the museum world, because of that silly experience as a kid. But really, from that young, my parents brought me to museums. And, there are studies today that show, we're so grateful for the people that support Florence Griswold Museum, for the people that support our field. And often, if asked, they'll say it's because their parents, they were exposed to them early, and it's because of parent or maybe a field trip. So that is really important.
Florence Griswold Museum is very famous, but
Yes.
there are probably some viewers that say, I know of it, I may have even been there, but I don't know the history. Can you take a moment just to tell us, Florence Griswold, who was she, and what's this museum about?
Sure. So Florence Griswold, born in 1850, December 25th, 1850, she came to own her house fully, and the family wealth had dissipated at that point. And so she was always looking for ways to preserve her family's estate on the Lieutenant River in Old Lyme, Connecticut. She did a couple things. With her mom and her sister, they ran a school for girls. Later, she ran a boarding house. And in 1899, Henry Ward Ranger, the great American artist, stopped looking for a place to spend time and to rent a room, but also he was wanting to find a place where he could paint. So she welcomed him in, and that in 1899 was the beginning of the Old Lyme artist colony. So artists mainly from New York, some from Boston, came to Old Lyme. It was convenient. It was easy to get there. It was easy to escape the heat of the summer, to come to Old Lyme. Old Lyme also was unique and still is. It's so beautiful, and there were so many, little farms still in existence in the countryside in and around Old Lyme, that the artist found a rich and vibrant ground for scenes they could paint, and then paintings of which people would buy. And so the quality of the wonderful scenery of sort of the bygone days of old that still seemed to be alive in the Old Lyme countryscape, combined with the absolutely magical quality of the light in Old Lyme. The artist often referred to that light. Amazing light. So Child Haslam, Willard Metcalf, and many, many others came, and they kind of took over the town and took over Miss Florence's house and turned it into the Old Lyme Artist Colony. And for all intents and purposes, Miss Florence was really the head of that colony. She was very entrepreneurial. She, in addition to renting rooms, she would sell paintings in her hallway. She would find antiques and then sell antiques in her house, because almost pretty soon, once the artist came, people started knocking on the door wanting to see the artist. More than 100 artists came in time and have been associated with the colony. But it was this magical time when I like to sort of describe it as if these artists came and they were with their tribe, they were with their people, and they would, geek out about life and painting and the goings and comings of the day and of the politics, I'm sure. They would sometimes maybe enjoy libations more than painting, but there's this camaraderie and this core despair there that really drove the artist. It was about the painting for sure, but it was also about that camaraderie and that building those social connections. And the colony became quite famous. And of course, now Old Lyme is known for its wonderful paintings and its rich artistic heritage. Miss Florence deserves a lot of that credit because she was such a wonderful hostess, and she just knew how to bring people together, created a wonderful environment for which the artists could thrive. She was also very tolerant. Suddenly the artists start painting on the doors and on the woodwork in her family's home. And it was just really, it's a wonderful story about community, about art, about the power of community and art. And it's also a wonderful story about an independent woman, being an entrepreneur and saving and a mission and a driven person to save her family home.
Okay, let's interrupt ourselves for just a second. I'm going to take a break. I'm Deborah Gilbert. You are tuned in to Arts and Entertainment. We're going to take a break, and we'll be right back. And welcome back to Arts and Entertainment. I'm Deborah Gilbert, your host, and as always, I hope you're enjoying the show. And we are talking about the Florence Griswold Museum. And Joshua, what we were talking about during the break is the website. I don't want to forget about that. FlorenceGriswoldMuseum.org.
That's correct.
What will the viewer find when they go there?
So when you land on our page, everything you need to have a wonderful, successful visit is there. So you can plan your visit with us by going to the website, but also if you wanted to dig deeper on the history of Miss Florence, on the history of the Old Lyme Artist Colony, all that information is there for you to peruse and to enjoy. So you can dig as deep as you want.
We had talked about the calendar. We're at the end of 2024. We're going into 2025. You may even mention 2026. What's happening with the museum as we're moving forward?
So we have some really, first off, we have an amazing staff that does amazing work. And I'm so proud, and not just proud, but it's just geeky fun to work with these insanely talented people. That said, because of their talent, there's a robust schedule of programs and new exhibitions. So we are into the holiday magic season, which will open the day after Thanksgiving. We have the house all decked out for the holidays. We also have Miss Florence's teas, our holiday teas, twice a day, except for Sunday and Monday, through the beginning of the new year. Those are very popular and really well received. Starting on actually opening this Saturday, we have two extraordinary exhibits coming up. One is called Native Prospects. It's a show that we have on loan from the Thomas Cole National Historic Site, where it's contrasting the work of Thomas Cole, Frederick Church, and other Hudson River School of Painters with contemporary Native American views. And that is a really groundbreaking, exciting exhibition. And then complementing that exhibition is a show called Continuance, which is a show that has been organized, driven, created completely by the tribes here in Connecticut. where they're showing their contemporary art and introducing us to their contemporary art, which is really, really exciting. And it was curated and created by them, which is really going to be really exciting. So that happens. Those two shows continue through February. In February, we open up a wonderful show. It is a show that is being organized by our curator, Jenny Parsons, in partnership with our artist in residence, William E. Williams. And William E. Williams is an incredible photographer from Haverford College who specializes and is very interested in sites of enslavement and sites of the Underground Railroad. Has a focus on Old Lyme, but then has gone throughout the state creating these thought-provoking and interesting and very compelling black and white photos of these sites. We're really, really, really excited about this exhibition, and it's a dream to be able to work with William E. Williams. And then we go into the summer season, and we have a whole nother set of exhibitions planned. But it's also not just the exhibitions, but of course, you can come visit the historic house and have your historic house experience. We also have a gallery dedicated to our permanent collection and our Griswold gallery. So there's always a proper art show up that you can come and enjoy. And you can see some of our favorites, like items from the Hartford Steam Boiler collection, which is, of course, one of our most important collections. So always something going on. And at the website, you can learn about our exhibitions and just the immense amount of programming that we do. That is so fun.
The future of the museum, do you see it going on 5, 10, 15, 20 plus years? I mean, it's been around. How's this future look like?
You know, it's looking great. Sustainability is something we think about and talk about a lot. And, you know, sustainability, financial sustainability, how are we supporting and nurturing our board and our staff? The future is very bright. We've been fortunate to be in a strong position coming out of the pandemic. You know, visitation was slightly down, but this year visitation is approaching record numbers, which is very exciting. You know, we are sort of making a shift, not a shift, but we're giving ourselves the grace to say it's okay to have some fun. And so while all of our work as a museum is based in sound scholarship, we're not afraid to be a little whimsical and fun at the same time. And really to hone in on storytelling. Museums at their best, I think, are when we tell a story, when there's a beginning, middle, and end, and we're exploring and inviting people in to understand this story with us. And so we are, one of our exhibitions that we're planning, we don't have a formal title, we actually have an incredible collection of cow paintings. And so, and they're stunning. And so we're gonna have an exhibition on cows next year, kind of whimsical, kind of fun. But the idea of sort of recognizing that everyone comes to museums for a different reason. You know, museums are definitely places of solace. They can be, you know, places where you come for some sort of academic or scholarship pursuit. But some people just want to come and enjoy the pretty art on the wall, and that's okay. Our focus really moving forward increasingly is making it an exceptional experience for our guests. From starting from the website to their arrival, to their experience in the exhibitions, to their experience in the house, to their experience as they peruse our gift shop, really looking at every minute detail. And we have so many great pieces in place, and we're just building and building and building. Speaking of building, we are planning in the early stages of planning an expansion project. We want to be able to show people more art. To do that, we need another gallery. So we're exploring that. We're also exploring, to that idea of the visitor experience, is there a way we can improve our lobby experience to provide people a little more gracious, open experience, and then also experience where we can orient them. You know, we talked about the story of Miss Florence, and that is one of our core stories, but we also view ourselves and are working, striving to become the Museum of Connecticut Art. So our focus, while it is in part on Miss Florence and the Old Lyme Art Colony, when we received the Hartford Steam Boiler collection in 2003, that opened up a whole new avenue for us. And we now see ourselves as collecting Connecticut art and presenting and championing Connecticut art.
Okay, I'm going to have to interrupt you because we are starting to really run out of time. Any closing thoughts for the viewer before we say goodbye?
Come often. Nothing is more exciting than seeing people enjoying themselves and smiling in the galleries.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for being here. It's been a wonderful show. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay. I'm Deborah Gilbert. You've been tuned in to Arts and Entertainment. In case you need to reach me, I'm at artsandentertainment@mail.com. Well, I hope you have a super day today. I really hope you've enjoyed the show. Thanks you so much, as always, for tuning in, and I'll see you next time.